You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Hello again, everyone. This is Doug Thorpe, and you're listening to another episode of Leadership Powered by Common Sense. My guest today is a gentleman who has an amazing life story and a journey through business, entrepreneurship, science and law, and several other disciplines. I'm going to let him get into it and describe it to you. Some of the names of companies we're going to bring up, you're going to be very familiar with. But without further ado, my guest is Mohan Nanda. Mohan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Doug. It's a pleasure to be here.
You might be able to detect Mohan is an immigrant to the United States and came to us early in his life as a student. And Mohan, give us the quick story arc of your journey here in America.
Thanks. I'm originally from India. I did my young life in India. In fact, I in a place where I was born, there was no electricity at the time. So I grew up and finished my high school without electricity in the village. And, so I have to study with the kerosene lamps. So I just want to give you that background.
Wow.
However, I might have been a good student. So I came to America in 1967 for further studies. I came in Pasadena, California, California Institute of Technology. It's one of the premier schools, in my opinion, probably the best school in the world. So I was privileged and studied there. And during the process, I finished my PhD in astrodynamics or astrophysics. So that's the training as a scientist, and became an employee at NASA at a Jet Propulsion Laboratory, primarily working on interplanetary travel. So I became more of an expert or provider of how to navigate various satellites to Mars, Jupiter, Venus, the whole 9 yards. So that's my expertise. And I've done some really interesting, even though it's abstract, but very challenging physics problems and solved those. Then I was recruited by the Department of Defense because they were developing this weapon system to do primarily in the area of navigation and called Global Positioning System, GPS. So I became the early architect of GPS, and in my view, that's what my real contribution to the mankind. And I've done it. So I always thank for that, getting that opportunity, because in fact, in 1980 or 81, I was interviewed by one of the newspapers, and I made a kind of a comment in my newspaper saying, everybody will be holding GPS in your hand. Even though at the time there was no iPhone or no, handheld phones, as a matter of fact. But if you now look back, almost the whole world, they have this, whoever has iPhone or any phones have GPS in their hand. So that did happen. So that's another reason I feel that working with GPS has been my real contribution. Then what happened was I was traveling quite a bit. I was going to Europe because of NATO countries, and the United States have this arrangement, and I became a U.S. government liaison for working with the NATO countries on GPS. So I used to travel quite a bit, and that became a little difficulty for my family, because I was not there to help my wife. I mean, she's also a professional. She's a physician, neurologist, and we have 2 young children. And so I kind of made a decision to quit my work and went to law school and became a lawyer. That's my
goodness. Wow.
Of the journey. I became a lawyer, but I'm still a technology background. So I started working with startup companies, mid-level companies, even sometimes big companies, and provided primarily corporate governance, corporate type of work. I also, because of technology, I did some intellectual property work, but I took few companies public or helped them go public, as well as a number of M&A, mergers and acquisitions. So that gave me a very good experience working with other companies. Then I decided my third phase of journey, which I became an entrepreneur myself, and I formed a few companies, and I actually took a few companies public, and I sold companies, and I'm kind of continuing that phase in a very limited sense now. But my objective is, I mean, it has been like that before, but clearly now there are two things I do. One, I only do things which I enjoy. Second, whatever I do should help somebody else. So that's kind of a very small my life journey and story.
I love it. And again, congratulations on that. And I teased out at the top of the show here, talk about the two companies you took public.
Yes, actually, okay, there are four companies I took.
Oh, okay, four.
The first one, I mean, this is my companies, not other. I mean, I worked with taking companies public, so I had that background. But this is the companies I helped finding. Those companies I took public. One is called stamps.com. Stamps.com is primarily a kind of I would say, the first e-commerce type of company which helps, of course, anybody can print any type of stamps on your computer. So, but anyway, that's a very successful company. And I not only took the company public, I also eventually sold the company to a private equity firm, Bravo, for $6.6 billion. So that's a good run. The second company I helped find, it's called InvestNet. InvestNet is in the financial tech company. I took the company public in the New York Stock Exchange. And now I'm not on the board. I am out, but however, they're almost got an agreement to sell it to Bain Capital, a private equity firm, for I believe it about $4.5 billion. So those are fairly successful exit to two companies. Then I took another company, a very small company but interesting company, public in the London Stock Exchange. London Stock Exchange, that company is called Jab Ventures. Jab Ventures is it just invests money into various technology companies. And one of the companies we invested is called RM Auctions. RM Auctions is a very high-end car auction company. It's a Canadian company. And I mean, I was with them for some time, but then now they sold it to Sotheby's. They exited to Sotheby's. It's called now Sotheby's RM Auctions. So it's a successful exit. Then another company I took public in the SPAC area. We took it and raised over $230 million. And then that company joined with a mobility company called Zoomcar. And that's an India-based company, but it's an American company, but operating in India. So that's currently I function as the chairman of the company and continue that. So those are public companies. Then I have a few of the still private, pre-IPO level companies, which I'm looking at opportunities to take them public. So I just want to give you that my professional entrepreneurial background.
A very busy guy that's done a lot of great things, and I'll tell you for what it's worth. I'm an avid user of stamps.com. I subscribed many years ago in my own business at the time. I've gone through several iterations of my business, and we continue to use that as a tool. It's I know a lot of people are familiar with it. It's a very handy platform to uh, skip the trip to the post office. You can print your own postage from your office or your home. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and you
We had our, I mean, we still have, meaning it's not our company, it's a private company now. But we, at the time we sold, we had over 1 million small businesses and, big businesses customers, and we were printing $20 billion worth of stamps every year. So it's quite a,
my
we were
goodness.
very, very, if you take the United States Postal Service, their revenue was, total revenue is like 65 billion, out of which 20 billion came from us. So it is pretty successful operation.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the big value add for me was skip that trip to the post office, standing in line with the postal clerk behind the counter. But no, that's a great story and journey. Now, Mohan, I guess my question is, you were into what sounds like a very interesting and successful career back with the government and the GPS. And except for the travel, which I certainly get, and the impact it has on a family, what else incentivized you about taking your own path to entrepreneurship?
That's an excellent question. Yes, I always, I mean, being coming from a very rural, small but beautiful village, my whole goal was to continue to learn new things, because everything is new to me from that background. And I, of course, ended up here, meaning I still live in California. In fact, I live in one of the most beautiful parts of California. It's called Malibu. Malibu, in fact, if you look at the back, that's the Pacific Ocean. And this is what we call the surfer's paradise. There will be at least a couple of hundred surfers behind me practically every day. So I'm lucky to have that kind of opportunity. But the process has been learning. Learning is the motivation to do things. And when even though the travel was a pain, because you're away from home and all, but I said, okay, instead of doing this science, because another reason, if you go back and look at the Nobel Prize winners in science, or any Nobel Prize winners, specifically in the medicine, physics, chemistry, any of those, people generally do their real creative, the real amazing work when you're young. Young means in the 20s to 30s. When you are past 30, your ability to be that creative is reduced. However, most Nobel Prize winners get their prize when they are 60s or 70s, but for the work they have done when they were 20s or 30s. So I kind of said, instead of me, because I already passed my 30s, and I said, maybe I cannot be that creative. So maybe I should pursue something else. And here in the United States, I looked at all the so-called achievers in the professional business world. Most of them are lawyers. So I said, maybe if we can't fight them, join them. So that's the reason I went to law school and became a lawyer, because in America, having a law degree rather than even a business degree, because you can do anything, because this country is a very based on rule of law. I mean, also highly litigious society. So it's having knowledge would be very valuable. And that is really, because I went to law school, is the reason I became an entrepreneur. Otherwise, I would not have done, because I would not have understood or learned all the aspects of legal aspects of, because I mean, in fact, I've written, 2 books, and one book is about my life story. The other book is for entrepreneurs. I have provided quite a lot of insights being a lawyer, but in the business world. So that's the reason I went and started going into the entrepreneurial journey.
It's interesting you bring that up. I have occasionally told the story back in my early career as a banker. I was starting out at the bank more on the operations or the back office side of the bank, running teams and work units that supported everything the bank was doing. But I was invited to come over to the so-called credit side of the bank and join the real estate team. As a loan administrator chief, they wanted me to build a department to run the administration of our loan portfolio. But I told the boss there, the senior executive that ran that group, I said, I don't know anything about real estate law. I think if I'm going to be the administrator, I need to learn something about that law. He said, I'll get it fixed. And he picked up the phone. He called our lead attorney at our outside counsel and said, I want to send Doug over to work with you. And however long it takes, I want you to let him sit at your feet and you teach him what our law is about. So I went on a crash course of law school, never took the bar exam, but I got a beautiful and wonderful and long-term value add in being able to have that experience. And I have been involved in many different negotiations where opposing counsel came to me during a break and said, "Where'd you go to law school?" And I think they meant that in a good way, not a bad way. I think they meant it in a very good way. And I would explain the story, and they'd go, "Wow, you're some student."
I mean, it's a great opportunity. In fact, I kind of tell people that an opportunity there to go to law school, should do that, because you don't need to be a lawyer and work as a lawyer. You can do anything, and you bring quite a lot of knowledge with regard to whether you start a company or work for some kind of administrative work. Every aspects have a connection to the law, so that knowledge would be extremely valuable. In fact, I have two children. One became, my wife being a doctor, the older son became a doctor. He's a neurosurgeon. My younger son became a lawyer because I went into law school. So the legal, in fact, I have a few grandchildren. My oldest granddaughter became a lawyer. I mean, she's actually finished law at Oxford University, and now she's going to take a New York bar, California bar, and the British bar exams, so that he has access to practice anywhere he wants. So being in a lawyer is a good thing, but you don't need to do just law. You can do anything, any kind of profession you can get. Yeah.
Very good. Well, let's turn the tables a little bit and let's get back to the key theme of our show title here, leadership. As you embarked on that journey, clearly you were confronted with challenges of building teams and leading teams. Talk to us a little bit about your evolution as a leader in those businesses.
Exactly. Good. In fact, I have kind of documented what you just asked for in a book. I said I have two books. The second book is called Small Steps, Dream Big. And in that book, much of my discussion is about the building. How do you start a business? How do you build it? And there are three basic ingredients. One, in order to have any business, you need to know what the service you're going to provide or what product you're going to provide. That's the key starting phase. The second part is the people, the team. That's what I'm going to talk about. But the team is that's the process by which you succeed or you fail. The team is the most valuable thing. And the third element is capital. Capital, of course, is essential, but you can always find capital if you have the right product and the best team, the right team. So team is the key. Teaming, of course, if you're a solo proprietor and just doing by yourself, it is you. But then it's the potential to grow is limited. There is only so much one person can do. However, if you want to grow, you have to bring the right type of people into your team. Right type meaning you have to be able to work with them. You have to be able to kind of have the same goal or similar goal, but different capabilities. I mean, as a team, you are a founder and you're functioning as like a chief executive officer. Perfect. I mean, you may know some technology, some marketing, some relationship and all, but you may not be an expert on that. So you have to bring somebody who is more knowledgeable and more capable as a technology officer, if you're a technology company. But certainly you need a financial person who knows more about accounting and governance and working with other auditors and things like that, like a chief financial officer. Then the success of the company is to get the customer and make customer happy. That means you need to bring a good marketing. So it's initially when you start the thing, you will wear all different hats same time. But as you grow, you have to bring the right type of people with the similar goals, but with different expertise together. That gives you an opportunity to succeed. So I don't know whether I addressed it correctly. That's my.
No, you did. I think the challenge, as I've experienced it, and I've had a number of clients over the years, all the way back to my banking days, that owner-founder gets sort of locked in on an idea. They've got the product, the service, the vision of an idea of what they're doing. And they may do what you just described. They may realize, well, I need to add people to my team to make this grow. But they get to a certain level and they sort of hit an invisible wall where they can't think about the next step, because usually it involves some notion of giving up some control. And it becomes a very personal thing, and some would call it ego. I don't like that word because I think it's a bigger issue, but it's that fear of giving up control that holds them back. And some of the smartest entrepreneurs I know are the people who got to a certain level and they said, "I need to hire a CEO. It's not me."
Exactly. In fact, I always make this as it's not a totally correct comparison, but there is something to it. Certain founders or certain kind of people, those who really want to do, they are more like micromanagers. That means everything has to come to them and they have to approve, and then, the work is done. But the problem is you can't do that all the time. There is only so much you can do. If I compare this between two presidents, Reagan and Carter, I like them, both of them. And in fact, if you look at Carter, is a nuclear kind of a person, and he's very, very capable, extremely hardworking, very smart person. Whereas Reagan is a nice person, but I don't think his deep knowledge is that much because he's in the movie industry, came from there. But if you look at those two administrations, Reagan brought in best people, delegated authority, and get things done. Whereas Carter also had good people, but he was in charge. He will look at everything, every step. So if you look at those two administrations, I think the success was with Reagan rather than Carter. So similarly, if you're an entrepreneur, if you don't delegate the right job to the right person at the right time, I mean, like I started the company, I was the chairman and the CEO, but then after some time, I said, maybe it's too much for me, I didn't want to. So we brought in a CEO, I continued as a chairman, as an example. So you have to make the transition and bring the right people to the table and work together. But the key ingredient, I think you have to bring people with integrity, honesty, and the same path or same where you want to go, that has to be. But if there is any one of them has some problem with anything to do with the dishonesty or lack of integrity, you have to get rid of them right away. Otherwise, the whole it's like a bad apple, spoils the whole bucket of apple. So you have to be very careful about that. But it's very important to give them the delegation, and also they can be very innovative when you give them the authority to make decisions rather than you make all the decisions. But that depends on the time, when, and how you do it. That's my experience. I would recommend.
One of the words of advice I always give entrepreneurs who have already started to, they're entering that scale up phase of their business. They've proven the concept with startup. They've done a little bit of growing up, but now they're really ready to scale. And inevitably they'll say, I'll give you an example. They'll say, well, we've achieved a $5 million topside annual revenue. Well, that's great. Congratulations. But I think I want to take it to 10. I need to go hire an ops manager or a sales manager. And what I tell them they need to do, you need to go recruit somebody that's already operated at 10 million. You don't want another $5 million guy. You're already there. You want to find a $10 million guy that knows how to operate at that level, bring them in to help you grow your company to that level. And it's a subtle nuance, but so many miss that. They kind of go out horizontally and look at opportunities rather than going vertically and looking for that growth leader that can come in and really show them some new things that can help them get to that higher level.
The problem is, the reason is, the people don't want to give up control. They some or other, that's okay, but you cannot grow. The growth is limited. If you control is not, you don't become a control freak, but the thing you have to do, for example, I recommend people, if opportunities come, look for other companies which are similar, complementary, outside even your area, and see whether you can bring them in a combination. Say a merger or acquisition is an extremely good way of growth. Of course, organic growth is important. You have to increase the sales, acquire customers, but inorganic growth is equally important. But there is another reason. When you bring other company, somebody you can work with and join together, you get a totally different type of management skills, which you have not had in your, if it is in the same area, that is another way to bring the right people to the table. So I always look for you should always have a pipeline of potential combination companies in the horizon, and at the right time, you should bring them if you want to grow and scale up.
I love that. Well, Mohan, you mentioned 2 books. You touched on the one about entrepreneurship, but and tell me the title of that book again, the entrepreneurship book.
Yeah, I have it. This is called Start Small, Dream Big.
I love it. Yeah.
You have to take, you have to grow in steps. That's the whole thought. You start. If you're a founder, a young person, I'm assuming, or even you're middle-aged, or it doesn't matter when you start, but you have to start small. You need to have a vision where you want to go. Your roadmap has to be in your mind, and then you have to structure it in such a way it can be done. In fact, not only I have, this book, it will be interesting. I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about various topics. In fact, there are, I believe, 39, 10 minutes to 15 minutes kind of video clips, which I talk every aspects of building a company. How do you start it? How do you bring a team together? How do you raise capital? And what are the, how you generate a business plan, and how do you leverage debts? All kind of, how do you find the right for M&A? how you find and what type of things you should look for. So all aspects. So if anybody wants to go and look at my YouTube channel, it's actually Mohan Nanda. That's the channel name. You can put my name in the thing in Google. You will find out, and those are very good for. I mean, I would recommend to listen to, but it doesn't mean that everything I say is right. But it would be a good opportunity to at least understand what I have done and how my problems or challenges and how I faced it and how you can overcome or don't repeat the same mistakes I have done. So that will be very useful. The book talks about quite a bit, but the video YouTube channel kind of give you some additional.
That's wonderful. Well, as always, folks, we're going to get links to that information and we'll put it in our show notes here. But you mentioned another book that's more your life story, kind of an autobiography, I guess. What is that book?
Yeah, this is that book. It's called Autobiography of an Immigrant.
Oh, love it. Yeah.
The reason that I chose that name, there is a very famous book. I mean, very lot of people. I mean, read about. So, autobiography of a yogi. A yogi. Yeah, so I just copied that. Instead of a yogi, I put an immigrant. I'm an immigrant, so I put that. And of course, another reason I use that word, there is a lot of discussion about immigrant in America now, whether it is good or bad. Some people like them, some people don't like them, whatever it is. But I thought this is my life story. I think immigrants have contributed a lot to the growth of this country. In fact, if you look back, every American is an immigrant. I mean, it's really, they came whether 10 generations ago or current generation, doesn't matter. But that's the reason I chose that name. I mean, those two reasons. One because of the yogi and another one because but that really tells my kind of life. It's interesting in the sense I got a lot of extremely good feedback, by the way. People thought it is really done very nicely. And in fact, my granddaughter, I have two, I have few granddaughters. My oldest granddaughter, who is the lawyer, who just finished law from Oxford, she wrote the foreword for this book, The Autobiography of Immigrant. And my second granddaughter, who is a student for right now at NYU, wrote the forward for us because I just want to give them opportunity to write, and also they have something to look forward to. So the first the Autobiography of an Immigrant is really it's almost like a story. It's where I was coming from, how I what I did as a youngster back home, and when I came here. As a student at the time, I was just going through Vietnam War, and I was how I was inducted because of everybody has to. So in fact, I had an order from the selective services to report to the. In order to, send me to Vietnam. But it so happened I was at the time working for North American Defense Command in Cheyenne Mountains in Colorado Springs. But then the day before or a couple of days before I was supposed to report, I got a letter from my three-star general saying that they wanted me here than in Vietnam. So I did not go to Vietnam. As an example, the reason I'm saying I kind of told such stories and what kind of steps I have to go through to accomplish some of the things I've accomplished. Life is not
fascinating. Yeah.
Process. It's a lot of things. I mean, very difficult. But the interesting thing is if you have that confidence you can achieve, if you can really go after and face the challenges rather than give up. If you give up, nothing will happen. But you have to be even when you start the companies, I've started 5-6 companies, 4 of them was a total failure. The failure is it may be very, very painful, but look at it as a learning opportunity. In fact, there are two types of people: half full, half empty. I'm a half full guy, meaning anything you see, I see something good in it. For example, let me tell you this. It's interesting. Pandemic. Pandemic is the worst thing happened to in my lifetime, or almost everybody's lifetime. It is the I thought it was in a way it helped me, but for the pandemic, I would not have written the book because I didn't travel a lot. I stay at home, so I decided to write the book, and so it had a positive aspects in my life, even though it's really bad. So if you're a half full, you can achieve. If you're a half empty, because you can see everything wrong. I mean, anything can be wrong. And then you don't try. You don't go after things. So I would always recommend to become a half full person if you can. But it's very difficult. Some people are, some or other, I don't know whether it's genes or whatever, they are always look for things looking bad. And some people look things looking good. But I think if you want to be a successful, the looking good approach is very essential.
I love it. I love it. Well, on that note, Mohan, we better wrap this up. We're about up on time for the show, but thank you so much for sitting in and sharing your amazing journey. And like I said, folks, we will have the links for the books and the YouTube channel and all of Mohan's contact info in our show notes. And one last time, thank you, sir, for sitting in with us. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot. I mean, I would be happy if you want to have a follow-up or discussion on anything particular. In fact, I'm currently, before we close, I'm getting 2 additional books being published. In fact, one is almost ready. Maybe it'll come in a month or so, and it's called Looking Back, but it is more of a travelogue, because I traveled a lot of countries. So I thought it would be interesting to give my version of how it has transformed me by traveling to this place. And also I put a lot of pictures in it because I take some pictures. So that is one book. The other book, which may take some time to come, but time meaning it's finished, but the publisher is pulling it together, may take 4 or 5 months. And that is an interesting book called Life with Artificial Intelligence.
I like that. Yep.
My interest, because of a technology person, and I've done a lot of work, and I think it's really intrigued by the growth of AI, and then I made some predictions and how it could be, what are the ramifications, and how life is transforming, or it is actually started, but it is as we look forward. And that's a very interesting book. That's another.
Great. Well, looking forward to those as well. But again, thank you so much for sitting in, and really appreciate your sharing today. And with that, folks, we're going to wrap up, say goodbye. As I always say, go out there, make it a great day.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.